G'day and welcome everybody, here Duckville bringing you some Heart of the Swarm action. Of course this is going to be a very special cast. I've got a co-caster with me and he's going to be providing some awesome insight. And of course this what will hopefully be a very cool replay. I've got fellow co-caster from over from the UK. It is Madals. How you doing, buddy?
I am doing pretty darn good, actually. I'm glad I could be here. So, we have got a pretty cool game. Would you like to introduce the two players since it's your channel?
Yeah, sure. Down the bottom left-hand side is our Blue Protoss player. He's going to be playing here. So Easy, I think, is a little the clan group that he's made. Of course, one of the cool new features in Heart of the Swarm. It is Kyo. And his opponent up in the top right, our very familiar face. Of course, I've done quite a few replays of him on the channel, of course, and one of the more interesting players in the scene who does some, you know, some crazy things from time to time. It is Liquid TLO.
Now, I actually had the great pleasure of meeting TLO about 3 months ago. He stopped off in the UK on his way back to America from somewhere and decided to try and win our competitions.
Cool. Was he bearded TLO at the time or not bearded TLO?
Slightly bearded TLO. Like, to be fair, but I think he didn't do too well in the tournament, unfortunately, but I can't blame him. He was jet lagged like mad. Like, he just kind of arrived one day and it was like, yeah, I'm here, and he was so disorientated. He'd like flown out to Europe, then back to the UK, then was going back to the US in like the space of a couple of days, but it was good to see him. And so he's actually a really nice guy. He's really cool.
Yeah, I'd always imagine he's a pretty cool dude. Like, I mean, after watching the Liquid Rising documentary when he was, you know, saying some funny and interesting things, he seems like a pretty nice guy. And of course, watching him on his channel as well is really nice. But yeah, we'll see how he goes here. Of course, we should mention both these players. Of course, you know, in the High Masters, the Grandmasters sort of level of play. Everyone's familiar with TLO. I personally wasn't as familiar with Kyo, but Kyo's he's in Grandmasters, I think you said as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, he's pretty high in Grandmasters actually, and he's been playing up against a whole host of really top names. So that's where I grabbed these replays from, and he's really making a name for himself. I mean, he's taken out some good people. So looking forward to how he does against TLO.
I love the way the beta works with a lot of people sort of, you know, they sort of pop up, and I remember back in the Wings of Liberty beta, TLO was actually one of those people who he sort of came along and started doing some really interesting things. Of course, that was back in the day when TLO was a Terran, and he did some interesting things. I think he was one of the first people I saw do a ghost-based play where you throw down an EMP and on a Protoss Nexus and then nuke it, and that was you know, those are some kinds of cool things. But yeah, of course, you know, some players will rise to prominence in the beta, and then others will fade away. Like I don't know if anyone remembers King Hillbilly. He was a pretty big name back in the Wings of Liberty beta. But yeah, anyway, we should probably talk about the game, of course. We do have our PvZ here on Cloud Kingdom, a very familiar map. Of course, these very standard sort of setups coming along from both players. The Forge and Gateway wall at the front for Kyo, and of course TLO going up to a quick 3 bases.
And I like the way that Zerg hasn't actually changed too much in the early game. I think it's something that's more beneficial than detrimental. And I don't know about you, but I find the timing of a Protoss's mothership core to be exceptionally interesting. There seems to be two chains of thought where a lot of Protoss actually like going off on one base and they've switched up from a standard Forge Fast Expand to actually go for a 1-gate expand with a mothership core. And I don't know if you've had the pleasure to see that, but Zerg players really struggle with it actually, just due to the mothership core helping so much.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually the way that I've been playing in PvZ in Heart of the Swarm, is actually just to do a gateway based expand with no forge or anything. In fact, I actually get my forge really late, and sometimes depending on the map, I haven't even been walling off down at the natural, just because it's, you know, it's not too much trouble to defend against it, especially with a very powerful mothership core throwing down photon overcharge on a Nexus. And you know, it's as long as you're scouting correctly, like obviously if you see your opponent go for 7,000 speedlings or something like that, then you need to make a bit of a change. But you know, as long as you're looking out for what's coming along, then it can be quite easy to deal with these kind of things with those early game changes from Protoss. As you said, I think I totally agree. I think it's a very good thing that Zerg hasn't really changed too much right at the start. I mean, Zerg's always been a race that has you know, the powerful ability to be extremely aggressive at the start while still maintaining a decent economy for the most part. And, you know, I think it's good that that hasn't changed. So, you know, we do see the players now continuing to get their workers going. Of course, TLO up to a healthy amount of drones. At the moment, he's up to 49 in total. Meanwhile, for Kyo, he's sitting at 41.
Now, this is really the standard spot for Zerg to be in, getting the lair up, getting up the evolution chamber. I'll be interested to see whether we actually get a Roach Hydra blade out of TLO, because he's getting the +1 missile attack just starting now, and of course Roach Hydra is really solid against Protoss at the moment, especially if you go into Vipers. Get some good abducts off, and you can have a really nice time even if they start getting those Colossi out. But Kyo hasn't actually started his Mothership core yet, instead going up for 7 gates with Blink. 8 gates he's actually going to go to. So 8 gate Blink all in. Fun times.
Now, this is the interesting part about this kind of play, is that what you can do is, of course, if he actually had the Mothership core out, like we're sort of speaking theoretically and the imaginary player right now, but if Kyo actually had his Mothership core out right now, then, you know, while a couple of things may be delayed, he might not have as many stalkers. His blink would be a little bit slower, of course. But what you could do, these kinds of pushes that he's probably going to go for in just a second, are very, very all in Wings of Liberty. But you know, if you're careful and if you throw in the old Mothership core recall, sometimes these aren't as detrimental to your play. It kind of depends on how far you're going to go for it. So we do see that Kyo is going to get started with the warp-ins of the Stalkers. Of course, they've got their +1 and their blink is just about to complete. In fact, their +2 is also just about to complete. And here we go with an attack on the third base.
Well, TLO, he's sacrificing him, which is a good move in this situation. I don't think he saw it coming. He saw 3 Stalkers come up and just do a little bit of harassment, but now TLO's lost his third. He could be in a tough spot, but he's getting down Enduring Locusts, so may go for Swarm Hosts out of this, which wouldn't actually be a bad thing to defend it with, but I don't think he's going to be able to get enough out in time. Even if he starts them now, he's got to hold this off first, and he's going to go in for it. The Roaches trying to push forward, but there's just too many Stalkers there at the moment, and Kyo apparently is going to give us a masterclass in Blink Micro.
Yeah, just really nicely done. Just keeping his forces back, being very careful, as you mentioned. The Locust may be coming along, but I'm not... Yeah, I just don't think he's going to have the ability to get them out. Of course, a great way to deal with the Blink tech is to utilize Burrow, of course, on Roaches, and perhaps even the Swarm Host. But no, there is a GG, a very quick game between these two. Of course, Kyo with that very heavy gateway pressure right off the bat, and with the Blink and a lot of Stalkers and TLO being completely underprepared, TLO goes down in this very quick match. So
yeah,
I don't know. Like, what do you think? That was just completely the fact that TLO was completely unprepared for something that is what is it, for all intents and purposes, a Wings of Liberty build?
I think he scouted it too late. He did scout it with an overseer. I was just having a quick look at his vision, and so he did spot it, but not until too far through. And I think actually what really threw him off was that Kyo moved in with 3 Stalkers, and I think just having those 3 Stalkers moved in, TLO adjusted his build to get a couple of Roaches out and Speedlings to deal with that light aggression, and then as a result thought, oh well, I'm safe. He's not moving in with a big push, and as a result just wasn't prepared. And it's unfortunate really with his tech path that he went for. He was clearly wanting to tech towards Swarm Hosts from a very early point, and once you've committed to that path, you've obviously got less Roaches out, less gas, you don't have Roach speed started quite as soon. So all in all, it was a bit unfortunate for TLO though, I reckon.
Yeah, just caught off guard there, wanting to go for that little bit of a more interesting tech, of course, the Swarm Host. I still don't know how I feel about the Swarm Host, but anyway, that will be the end of that one. Of course, we'll have some more action coming up very soon. Madals, if you wanted to shout out to your channels and all your various social media methods.
You can find me on Twitter, which is @MadalsSC2, or on YouTube, which is Madals91, and it's as simple as that.
There you go. All right, guys, go and say hello there. Go and subscribe to Madals, and of course, you can always catch my content on the various channels that I've got. There are Heart of the Swarm beta keys flowing about on my Facebook and Twitter and these kinds of things. So if you're still on the lookout, go and have a look for one of those. You can also go and see the After Hours Gaming League cast over at afterhoursgaming.tv. Week number 3 went up last week and was there were some really cool games there, and week number 4 should be up in well, within the next 24 hours or so, and there is a very interesting set in that one as well. So we will jump into another game very soon, and hope we can see everybody there. Cheers. Slowly but surely crept up. He's up to 6 carriers right now and looking very good with that. We'll see how he goes in this battle. Unfortunately, a couple of the carriers haven't actually gotten all of their interceptors out.